Welcome to Where Her Heart Speaks, a show designed to challenge and disrupt ineffective thoughts and behaviors to help you not only embody peace, joy, calm, and certainty, but also to help you live the life you've always dreamed of living. Where Her Heart Speaks with Coach Catherine begins now.
Hello, and welcome back to Where Her Heart Speaks. I am Catherine James, your host, international speaker, best-selling author, certified trauma-informed coach, and I'm so excited to be with you again on this platform. Last week, I came to you with the message, feeling like or looking like a public success, but feeling like a private mess. And I brought that message just based on the fact that I realize, for one, in my own life, and then after working with so many women, that this is a reality for many who on the outside, everything looks good, but on the inside, you feel so broken. Part of last week's message, I shared a story that I experienced in my life where I actually found myself driving on the wrong side of the street, having no idea that I was driving on the wrong side of the street until I looked up and saw a car coming right at me, and just avoiding a head-on collision. In that moment, I woke up and realized what was going on. After I finished last week's message, I realized that there was so much more that could have been said, could have gone so much deeper in that message, really looking at how do we identify the mess? How do we know if we're actually living in that mess? Yeah, we may know that we don't feel good, and we may know that we might not really like life as it is, but how do we know if it's the mess? And more importantly, how do we get out of the mess? So to help you identify, I asked a very dear friend of mine to join me this week. And I asked her because she and I have had these conversations, and we've just been able to walk through some of our own stuff. So I want to introduce to you my friend, my sister friend, Coach. And I don't know, I could say all of these great things about her, but for the sake of time, I'll let her share all of her greatness. But Coach Ayana O, my friend Ayana Onura. Hey, Ayana.
Hey, Catherine. Thank you so much for the honor and privilege to have this conversation, our private conversation, to be shared publicly that will benefit all those who have the opportunity to listen in and learn with us and from us.
Yeah.
So I'm Coach Ayana O, and to summarize quite briefly what I do, I help individuals and entities integrate mindfulness for success.
And I am so super excited that you are here. And so listen, we are doing this live, and you all, there may be some interruptions. We may get some noise in the background. Ayana was gracious. She's actually traveling, and gracious enough to say yes, just to take a pause from what she's doing. So I'm going to ask that you just bear with us. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, Ayana. Aside from what you do, where you come from, how did you get to being a mindfulness coach?
I am a melting pot of my lived experiences. 4 countries lived in, 33 visited. Uh, I like to say I did my growing up in Jamaica and my adulting in England, and currently residing in Las Vegas in the United States. How did I come to being this mindfulness teacher, consultant, coach? It was not a career path that I had set out for myself. I always thought I would be strictly business. That's my background. I've got a MBA. I knew I was always meant to be of service to people. And I, for a brief time, thought that would have been through becoming a psychiatrist or a psychologist. So I have my first degree in psychology. But then, you know, as the topic says, what a public success looks like, and what the public success that I was inclined or desired, or that was shown and presented to me, had nothing to do with being a psychiatrist or a psychologist. It had to all do with private banking, financing, businesses. So I wanted to be what that public success looked like in the environment I was in at that stage and phase in my life. So I went into business. However, yes, I looked like a public success. I
I'm gonna
had the
stop.
degree.
I'm gonna
Mhm.
stop because it's coming.
Okay.
I feel it. Is coming. And just to those who are listening, if you know someone who could benefit from this conversation, someone who looks like a public success, but you know, if it's a girlfriend, based on your conversations, you know the number of breakdowns they have or have had, continue to have. Go ahead and invite them to join in on this conversation. If it is a sister and you know that they are struggling with dealing with just the small things in life, go ahead and invite them to join in on this conversation. So much of this stigma on public success we allow to define us, and we're coming to tear that down a little bit so that we can learn what the importance of showing up in our own authenticity looks like. So as Ayana is talking, I'm like, everything in me is feeling. She's getting ready to go in. So you all know someone, go ahead and invite them to join you, listen in, so that they can get some takeaways that will help them to navigate life a little bit better. All right.
And also, I want to say to those that are listening, invite yourself fully, completely to be here and be present with us for this conversation.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So, thank you. Take a deep breath, and because I can be like a runaway train at times when I get into it. So,
You're
um,
reminding me. Um, One of the things that I like to do as I'm starting is just to invite people, remind people to take care of themselves, take care of
mhm.
themselves in these spaces. The purpose of this show is to disrupt some of our programming, some of our conditioning, and that doesn't always feel good. So as we are talking, if something triggers you, and remember, a trigger, something makes you feel bad, takes you back to a place in your past, be careful to take care of yourself. And taking care of yourself can mean pausing and listening at a later time. Taking care of yourself can mean turning it off altogether, or just taking a moment to breathe. There is an exercise that I have given in this moment. We'll just say, take a moment to breathe, and breathing to a count of 5, inhaling to a count of 5, and exhaling to a count of 5. Do that a few times. If you feel like you are continuing to be disrupted, then I would invite you to discontinue listening on this day. All right.
Awesome. Thank you. With that, and thank you for sharing that reminder to breathe. It's so important. So as I went on this path, because they said that was what public success looked like, it was the thing to have a career in finance. Um, that was the most successful or attractive thing. I pursued that. But not even a year into that career, I found that I needed a bottle of wine all for myself every night after work, and Sunday in preparation to go to work was a bottle of wine and a flask of vodka. And even that couldn't knock me out quite. It got to the point that couldn't knock me out for me to go to sleep. 2, 3 a.m. I was still up when I needed to be up at 6:37 to go to work. On the outside, it looked like I had a career. I was on a fast track program, working for a prestigious company, a prestigious private bank, working with the ultra high net worth individuals of the world, um, a husband, um, a beautiful flat, all the bells and whistles. And in my mind, it was just a battlefield. Drinking to numb, smoking to escape. At one point in time, I said cigarettes were my best friends. So that's what public success looks like. A wonderful career, a picture perfect marriage, living in a beautiful place. And the private mess was drinking excessively and smoking to numb, to cope, to calm the nerves. It didn't feel good. I knew it wasn't right, but I wanted to live up to that expectation of what public success.
Yeah.
I had the degree, so who am I to now share that I'm cracking, I'm crumbling when I have what they say I should have and should be successful and should be happening. So that was one of my first adult experience of having the public success, and internally on the inside, it was a mess.
Yeah. Yeah, there's almost like this. I like that you said there was a battlefield going on in your mind, because I know in my own life, and early on, I suffered with what I now know was functional depression, wherein when I would get home, I was on complete shutdown. Basically, all I could do was go to my room and cry until I went to sleep. But every morning I would get up and go to work and put on that smile, perform at a high level. No one knew, but I think what happens is we have this, you call it a battlefield in the mind, and I think of it as two parts of us warring. One part saying, this is what I'm supposed to be doing based on what they, as you've said, they out there say I'm supposed to be doing. And because I got the title, I've got the job, I've got the money, I have to keep up this facade. I have to keep up this image. And then there's another part of us that knows, like, I don't want this crap. This doesn't feel good to me. I don't really like it. And because we've not come to a place of being true to ourselves, that's where the numbing, the coping. And while yours, say, was drinking and smoking, there are so many others. Like for me, my numbing and coping at that time for sure was to go to sleep. Just go to sleep. And so I didn't deal with my husband. And at the time the kids were young, I didn't deal with them. I would literally just walk in the house, go to my room, fall on my bed, cry until I was able to go to sleep. So it's very interesting that we all long for this public success.
Mm,
And I really believe it's kind of a brainwashing that has taken place, right? Um, I was reading something the other day that was talking about the American dream and how it was the house, the job, the car. And I started thinking about how many people bought into the American dream. And I remember way back then saying, this daggone American dream is like an American nightmare,
mm,
right? Like the nightmare that won't end because I've done all this stuff to get this dream, but now I have to maintain it.
mm,
So, in my effort to maintain, I continue to chase.
mhm.
So, I mean, what's coming up for you? I see you smiling. I hear you agreeing.
There is so much, you mentioned mentioned for me, my private mess and the coping was the drinking and the smoking of cigarettes. You was sleeping. Other people, it looks differently. Are you that person who's constantly angry, constantly agitated? Um, Outburst. People like, "You're so nice, but" do you get those statements about you, or you say that about other people? Do you see people disappearing, or having quote unquote personality changes or behavioral changes that are unexplainable? Those are symptoms or signs of they're successful, but there's something that's not sitting right. Something's happening in the private. It's the private mess that they're struggling to cope with. So that's something that came up for me.
Yeah.
And also, as you mentioned, you know, the what was the last thing you just mentioned about how we're the American dream?
Uh-huh.
Ooh, that trap. It's not just America, it's the world all round. Like I said, I've lived in 4 countries and visited 33 in total, and it truly is a trap that we are conditioned and programmed to be in this perpetual cycle of going after more to achieving more. And I'm not saying we shouldn't enjoy life and enjoy the finer things in life and inventories and uh, the bells and whistles. However, we're so detached and far removed from our true sense of beings that we are on this hamster wheel, and we know we should get off, but it's not safe to get off.
We don't believe it's safe. We don't believe
Yes.
it's safe. We've been told that you have to have all of these things to maintain. You have to have all of these things to quote unquote be somebody, to be significant in this space. So we operate from that place. And I was just kind of thinking back as you were talking. I'm reading Dr. Gabor Mate's book, his latest book, The Myth of Normal. And in that book, he has a comment where he said, the more we chase after stuff, the more we lack compassion, the more we lack
Mhm.
empathy. And I'm thinking the more we lack compassion and empathy, it doesn't just start with lacking compassion and empathy in terms of interacting with other people, but it also means that we lack compassion and empathy with self. So the more we're
Mm.
chasing after self, the more disconnected we are becoming from self, which is how we end up getting into the mess. So we can't identify, if I don't feel good, it's okay that I don't feel good. And then,
Mhm.
put on top of that some of the things that I talked about last week, where you're conditioned to responding to other people's wants and needs. So before we started. And before I say that, I wanted to say also some other signs that there may be some issues, or, overworking,
Mm,
shrinking,
mm,
not speaking up for yourself. Some other signs that look like they are good things, but maybe not, is getting all entrenched, I'll say it that way, and religion,
mm,
just going to church. I like to say, and this is when I talk about trauma, that there's a whole lot of aholics with it. It's alcoholic, churchaholic, workaholic,
mm,
sexaholic. Like, all of these things are signs that there's a mess taking place
mhm,
and what happens is we become so familiar with these behaviors that we accept the discomfort as norm.
mhm.
So,
So
go ahead.
something you said that, we have had so many private conversations about that as well. It's okay not to be okay, which is one. For a while, we had these weekly discussions about that and normalizing that it's okay to not be okay, but don't stay not being okay, work through, which also ties into something you said, we disconnect from ourselves. And the work you've done with your studies and helping your clients reconnecting with themselves, with you geek out on the brain and the vagal system and connecting with self and how that, the trauma and it really intuitively we know it, but you put language to it that can make sense and we can comprehend to get back with ourselves, as you said, and you mentioned it last in the last episode. you know from a young age we're tending to other needs, others expectations, and I listened to that and I looked back and I'm like, cool, that's that people pleasing
Yeah.
behavior, because if you didn't do what even well-meaning parents and well-meaning adults, like, we had to stop and put our desires, what we knew was felt right to us, we had to put that on the back burner, bury those because of their expectations, what they wanted from us. um, but knowing you and honoring you, being in touch with you, remembering who you are at your core and honoring that, that really is where you start dealing with the mess. And so many of us, we have so many layers. We feel like that hamster wheel we can't get off, but we can
Yeah.
with the work you do. That's what I love you for. You do the work yourself and you share with me also. And I can share with you what I'm doing to deal with the past traumas and dealing with those old stories that keep coming back, and those reminders of what I should be, this I should going off track,
Yeah.
losing yourself again, the going after the public success and creating an internal mess. And
Yeah.
I love how you help people to clean up that internal mess and to not avoid it, but to mitigate it so it doesn't become detrimental, so that you can truly be that internal success as well as external.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's what it's about. Like,
Mhm.
helping individuals to understand, like, that mess, it doesn't just start, in our adulthood. It just starts to manifest. It's like the light shines brighter and brighter. The more we try to ignore it, the more it is suppressed, sometimes consciously, other times unconsciously, but it will show up because it's contending with who it is that we really are. And that real being, like, really wants to that real being really wants to be. Like it wants its place. That's who we were created to be. I always say that, like, be the you that you were created to be.
Mm-hmm.
The person that we were created to be wants its place. And I said, you get like this nudging where it's always saying there's something else, there's something else. Often we'll hear there's something more. The something more is not a more stuff. The more is the more you that wants to come up, that real you that wants to be seen, the authentic you. And it is understanding that when we're feeling like a mess, there's no coping mechanism that's going to erase that. It is looking at it head on, asking the question, what is this feeling telling me? What am I to take away from this? What is it that it is trying to make me aware of? Pausing. And often what happens though is we are so disconnected, not in tune with self, that we don't realize anything is going on. And I think that was why I wanted to come back to this topic, because I want people to understand it's detrimental to ignore the feelings and to just throw out some examples just in case something resonates, or they're like, hey, maybe I had that too, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I am insanely, watching too many hours of television, vegging on Netflix. Like, why is that? Not just because we've worked long hours and we're tired. That's the only means of escape available.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of escaping, is what's happened is we're still not living life. And the desire for me, and I think my purpose in calling, is to help women live life. Live life. I said that for this month, National or Women's History Month, that I wanted to pull a quote. And the quote that I pulled for this week is so fitting, and just in terms of truly living life. And it's by Maya Angelou. And it says, my mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and style.
That is so beautifully put. When you take that statement and really look at it, that is true success. Because everyone's passion is not going to show up the same way. Everyone's style is not going to be the same. How we receive and express compassion won't be the same. And that is the beauty of it when you do it your way. For the longest time, and still is my theme song, from not the song, the line from Frank Sinatra, doing it my way. And it's hard, it's challenging to own your own way. And sometimes you don't know. We are on a path of discovery, and it's also, who am I now in this season, and who am I becoming? And once I realized that I didn't have to be one thing all the time for as long as I'm on this earth, I allowed myself to be comfortable with the discomfort during the discovery process, and being at peace and at ease and at joy with this stage and this phase, and then it goes on, and that's the cycle of life. That's not on a hamster wheel. That's taking a journey.
Yeah.
There's some bends, there's some twists, there's some bumps, but it's being true to self with the compassion, the empathy, the joy, the style.
Yeah.
Honoring you. And also a part of that honoring is admitting I don't know what this version of me is or the next is, and taking time rather than putting on the mask and wearing the labels that others give you, that it's like a circle being forced into a triangle or a square. It doesn't fit. You know when it doesn't fit. As you said, that feeling, all the icks, alcoholics, sexaholics, all those, we use to mask perfectionism, all of those things to not deal with that nudge.
Yeah. Controlling.
Mhm. That's another one.
To
Yeah.
not deal with the nudge, to not
Mhm.
nudge. As we, think about what it means to thrive, I love that you took the definition of success to that quote. And last week, that was one of the tips, define success for yourself.
Mhm.
We allow someone else to define success, we can truly get into a mess because we are living based on what someone else says should be good for us. But
Mhm.
when we're able to define success for ourselves, and it is compassion for me may look very different than your compassion, or just my pursuit, what I'm passionate about, right? Is going to look very different from what you're passionate about. So, really saying, if I could just create a picture
Mm.
of success for me, what does that look like? And if we are just throwing out tips for those who are listening, I'd invite you to actually take a moment, schedule some time, 20 minutes, and ask yourself that question. Get quiet where you won't have any interruptions and ask yourself, what does success look like for me? Pen and paper, and just allow your heart to speak. Allow your truth to show up. Now, what we know is it may feel a little scary. And I like to tell my clients, it may feel scary, but it only feels scary because it's different, right? It's something new, but we won't die from it.
Mm. Catherine, as you mentioned the word feel, and you invited the listeners to take time to write out what success looks like. I am going to challenge you, those that are listening, to also write what success feels like for you. We have been conditioned to say what success looks like in terms of certificates, physical things. But when it's a feeling, what does that feel like? And you may discover that you've been more successful than you could have ever imagined.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll keep going with that as you ask yourself the question. Ask yourself the question one time, see what comes up. Ask yourself the question twice, see what comes up. Ask yourself the question 3 times, see what comes up.
That's so good.
Ask yourself the question 4 times and then 5 times. And what we know is about the 5th time, by the time you get there, the truth starts showing up. The first time we hit all the surface stuff. But as we're peeling off these layers with each time we ask that question, you get to your real truth. And so that's what we would offer for you this week in terms of doing the work and really getting an understanding of what success looks like for you. Now, here's the thing, again, it may look very different than what your life looks like right now. And that may feel a little scary. It may be a little unnerving. And then we began to have all of this negative mind chatter that goes off, and it's like, oh my God, how am I going to get that? I don't even want to deal with it. But I would say if it comes up and you are allowed to open your eyes again, another day and another day and another day, it's an opportunity for you to go after your success, your soul's success.
Mm.
So when the negative mind chatter shows up and says that it's not possible, take that as an invitation to do
Mm.
something different. Take that as an invitation to walk in a different direction. Take that as an invitation to reach out for assistance. Get on a path that is going to get you to where it is that you truly, that your soul says it wants to be.
That is so good. Mm-mm-mm. That is beautiful. And why it's so beautiful to me, because I know it is a path. You mentioned in the last episode that once you realized you were heading down the road, the wrong direction, vehicle coming at you, went to the doctor, realized it was an anxiety or panic attack, and it was the first of many, that you're in a different place. But it took years, it took time, and life is a journey. Life is meant to be lived. It's not an even, smooth road. And like Catherine also said in the last episode, get with a coach, someone like herself. Get the tools for you to be able to clean up that internal mess so that you can be a public success and also successful on the inside as well, not just for show.
Yeah. Yeah, really getting to that place of where you're thriving. Like there's so much talk about it.
Hmm.
And I think that brings a chuckle for me, because there's so much talk about it. You know, let's thrive, let's thrive, let's thrive. And when you hear it, people's minds are still taken back to someone else's definition of success. But to be able to thrive from your own definition of success is truly living, right? It's like, let's all have the mission that Maya had. let's all get on that mission.
Right? It's been talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Let's shift from being in action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shift from talking to doing.
Doing. Mm-hmm.
And
Baby steps. And Catherine, you gave the listeners one, they can do consistently. Actually, two. Write it out. One time, two times, three times. To the fifth, you get to the core of it. And that's step one, action one. Action two. Every day you open your eyes is an opportunity for you to take a step or take some sort of action in the direction of your soul's purpose. Whatever that action is, you get to define what that is.
Yeah. And if you're challenged, if you're challenged with the belief system, because sometimes we've told a story for so long, the internal narrative has taken place for so long, that to believe something different is difficult. If you're challenged, again, that is, I think everything is feedback. And that's just feedback. It's just saying, okay, I can't do this on my own. I can't take this journey by myself at this time. So reach out and get you a partner, get you a
Mhm.
partner, someone to walk with you. Oftentimes, like many of us I know are not fortunate to have friends like I have an Ayana in my life who understands this journey, has gone down this path, and so can not only speak with me from a friend standpoint, but also a subjective standpoint and an objective standpoint.
Mhm.
Um, Many of us don't have that. So I'm always careful when I talk about, grab a friend in terms of going down your path toward your true self. So if you don't have that, then you have to reach out to the experts. You don't have to. I won't say have to. It's not a definite. You get to
Mm.
choose always. But if you are ready to move in a different direction, that is something that I would urge. That was something that I would urge. So I
And
got
Catherine, if I may say, before we came into each other's lives, I grabbed an expert. That's how we met because I didn't have that friend to grab. I didn't have that subjective, objective sounding board to have these discussions with to give me perspective. So I knew I needed that. So I grabbed for an expert, and it's through me taking action for myself that our paths crossed more than what, 5 years, 6 years now.
yeah,
Yeah. So if you don't have that person in your immediate circle, there are resources, there are people out there who are available to you. um, like I say to my clients, I'm a resource, use me.
yeah,
Find your resources, use them.
yeah, yeah. So as we get ready to wrap up, this time went way fast. Much too fast. Tell people how they can reach you. I know that you always have tools free tools that will help
Mhm.
people navigate and take steps forward. If there's anything that you have, how can people reach you, or where would you like to go? What freebie do you have out right now?
It's- so I can be reached by visiting my website, www.ayanao.com. That's AYANAO.com. So you can, my number is on that site, email as well. If you are more of a social media person, my handle on all platforms is at coachayanao.com. When you go to my website, there is a link for you to download a free, there's a resources page. So if you need accountability to achieve your goals, if you need time management, there are resources for that. If you need to mindfulness to live more mindfully, there are resources for that. And as we're in March and coming up at the end of the month, I have a free 5-day challenge. If you lack clarity, it's all about getting clear and setting and achieving your goals and managing your time mindfully. That's coming up March 26th to 30th. So it's on my website, or just it'll be on my social media. So reach out to me. I'm a resource. Use me.
Use her. I will say, take action for yourself. That's what
Mhm.
she said as I close each week. There is a prayer. And my prayer this week is that you would take action for yourself. If you have tried some things and you've done it by yourself, and you feel like it's deeper than a cognitive space, I would offer that you reach out to me. And I often speak cognitive and physiological. Physiological is your body. And oftentimes things are stuck in our bodies, and that prevents us from taking action. We can think all day long, but if it's
Mhm.
stuck in your body is going to override those thoughts. So if that's something you've contended with or had challenges with, feel free to go to www.calendly.com/Coach Catherine and schedule a strategy session, free strategy session. So again, as I close, my prayer is that if there's anything that we have said that makes sense to you, if you can totally relate to what it means to be a public success, that you have all of the stuff, all of the bells and the whistles that they said you should have, and yet you still feel unsatisfied with your life, you still feel like there is this unfulfillment in your life, you still feel disconnected, find yourself numbing, find yourself using various methods to cope. My prayer is that you will take action for yourself. Take action for yourself. So as I sign off, I want to remind you that in this life, we get to choose to live a sensational life. Peace and blessings.
Thank you for listening to Where Her Heart Speaks with Coach Catherine, where Catherine aims to challenge and disrupt ineffective thoughts and behaviors to help you not only embody peace, joy, calm, and certainty, but also help you live the life you've always dreamed of living. Follow Catherine on Facebook and Instagram at I Am Catherine James, and visit www.catherinejames.com. Remember, to live the life of your dreams, you must go within and return to the place where your heart speaks.